This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so if we get cracking, good morning everyone. I hope you've managed to enjoy a little bit of the nice blue sunshine that we've had first thing this morning. It's nice to wake up to a nice crisp autumn morning. This morning our webinar is on digital marketing, which Helen Stott has been very kind to offer to present this morning. Before we do that, we will just run through a few little points as we normally do. So we'll start with the technical formalities of the disclaimer. I'll try and do this quickly. The following presentation is produced for general guidance only, and professional advice should always be sought before any transaction is undertaken. Individual circumstances can vary, and therefore no responsibility can be accepted by Harts Limited or any of their affiliates for any action taken or any decision made to refrain from action by attendees of this presentation. Hopefully it'll get easier from there if we just move on. Thank you. I've got the easy one today. So Stephen's normally got lots of government support updates to provide, and as you can see from the screen there is none. The only thing to remind you of is that there is the budget next week. The Chancellor's budget is next week, and we will be sending an update out immediately after that with our webinar the following week on the 4th. We like to have a little bit of a gap between the actual announcement and providing that information, because what we generally find is anything that's more business related, there's a lot more detail that gets published afterwards. So we like to have time to digest that so we can actually give you the information that you're not going to be able to just read in the headlines of the papers. So moving on from there, we've also got a few other webinars coming up to keep you hopefully entertained. So we've got on the 4th of November, as I just described, our budget update, which is going to be a webinar, as is this one, so a 9:30 start. 18th of November, business planning, why this is so vital. 25th of November is a physical one, so that's not a webinar, that's actually a networking event, but I thought it'd be helpful to let you know that that will be taking place at Holland Hall on the 25th of November. So anyone who's available to join us will be delighted to see you there. It's a fantastic event and a nice lunch too. 2nd of December is pensions, are they worth it? And then 6th of January, inheritance tax and how to minimise your liabilities. So that's where we're up to on our series of webinars so far. There's obviously a little bit of a break in between there for the thing that I shouldn't mention, but it begins with C, and there's only so many weeks to go. And I think that's all really from me at this stage. So what I will do is we'll hand over the presentation to Helen. She can get cracking on giving you some valuable advice in relation to marketing strategies, and I will be back with you after that session. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Helen, and I'll go on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Rebecca, do you need to give me the share again?
I think you should already be. Oh, wait a minute. Right, so you're presenter.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, good morning everybody, and thank you to Melissa and to Harts for inviting me to speak today. My name's Helen Stott, and I'm going to just talk through how we can develop a marketing strategy for our business and actually how to use it. So I'm hopefully going to give you some tips as to how to use digital marketing for your business. But before we get to that, I'm just going to run through what digital marketing is, why businesses should use it, what to use, what to say. That's always a big thing people say, you know, I don't know what content to use. A few do nots, and as I say, some tips, and then just how you can review performance. I haven't timed how long all these slides will take, but I anticipate, I do talk fast, so please do let me know if I'm talking too fast, but hopefully that will mean that we'll have some time for questions at the end if anybody's got any. So just a little bit about me. As I say, my name is Helen Stott. I work as Marketing Doris. I've been working for over 20 years at dedicated marketing. Prior to that, I was in sales and then sort of administration roles. I've been working nearly 15 years as Marketing Doris, and essentially I am a part-time marketing director or on-demand marketing manager, and that does include developing digital marketing strategies and managing digital marketing activities on behalf of my clients. I've got a wide range of industry experience. I won't read through all of that, but you know, pretty much across most industries, and I work for both B2B and B2C markets, so that's business to business and business to consumer. I'm going to just talk through a little bit about what digital marketing is, and essentially it is any marketing activity that we can do online, and that's as a way of communicating our messages to our target markets. So that can be either social media channels, and as we know that there are just hundreds out there, there are probably a handful that many people use on a regular basis. I'm not going to focus too much on the detail of social media. We have covered that in a previous webinar, which is available as a recording on the Harts YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. Digital marketing also includes regular e-shots, e-newsletters, e-bulletins. There are lots of different names for them, and again, you will have seen many that come through probably on a regular basis in your inbox. Ones that you subscribe to, maybe some that you haven't, but that's a different subject. And it's a great way of keeping in touch with your customer base, or even contacting the target markets that you would like to work with. We have PPC advertising, which is pay-per-click advertising, and you know, we may have seen that that's from Google. Any of the social media channels have a version of pay-per-click advertising, so we'll cover some of that as well. And our website is really our shop window, our virtual shop window, and it can be quite easily forgotten, and I think it's important that we make sure that we have new content and we do some SEO, which is search engine optimization practices, just to keep making sure that that shop window is visible on the on search engines. And it's important as well that we use digital marketing as part of our full marketing mix. So rather than have everything in one basket, that we also use offline and, you know, what I suppose could be more traditional marketing activities alongside your digital marketing mix. It really evens it out and really can complement each other. Who can use digital marketing? Well, basically anybody. And I think that the great thing about digital marketing activities is that it is so accessible. There are so many cheap and free tools that we can use that any business can benefit from using some form of digital marketing as part of their marketing strategy. So across all industries, all sizes, business to business and business to consumer. And it's just a case of what you use and how you use it. Before we launch into the actual marketing activities in a little bit more detail, it is important that we have some form of strategy. And, you know, this can often sort of, you know, raise eyebrows and you think, oh, here we go. A strategy doesn't have to be a huge document, but I think it's important before you dive into getting started is that you just have a think about what it is that you want to achieve. It also should be complementary to your marketing strategy if you have one, or at least your business plan, again, if you have one. But you know, you want to make sure that the objectives of what you want to achieve through any marketing activities, whether it be digital or offline, is that you know what you want to achieve. And some of those objectives could be that you want to raise awareness of your brand, of your company, and that could be within your industry or within your target markets or within your geographic area. It can be used as a lead generation or a sales tool. You know, if you're looking to sell an X product, then it may be that you're looking to have so many sales by a certain period of time. So those are as I've mentioned there, sort of smart objectives where you've got some tangible measures that you can put into place. It could also be used as a customer service tool. I've talked before about e-marketing and the bulletins and the newsletters. That's a good way of keeping in touch with your customers. Another good way is through social media, and we've probably seen that a lot of the larger brands use social media tools as a way of keeping in touch with their customers and allowing the customers to keep in touch with you. A key word with social media is social, and that interaction is very important. And often it can be an easy way of getting in touch with a company through social media than perhaps through other methods. Having a strategy and having clear objectives does help you keep a focus. It can be so easy to get distracted and think, oh, we should be doing that, or everybody's doing this type of activity at the moment, we should be doing that as well. So I think it helps you keep a focus, and it also helps when you're planning future activities. Just remember, does this help with what our objectives are? And importantly, if you've got some measures in place, then you've got something to be able to track your performance. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can track performance of the different digital marketing activities. There are lots of benefits for using, well, for employing marketing tactics anyway, but for digital marketing, you know, it can, as I talked about before, complement offline activities. So, you know, this may not be relevant for every business, but offline activities could be direct marketing where you're actually sending something in the post. It could be advertising, it could be some PR activities. So it could be your leaflets, your brochures, any of those. You don't have to be doing everything, but what digital marketing can do is it can complement those activities. It can be very cost effective, as I've said. There are many of the tools that you can actually use for free. Many of the tools have paid versions, but certainly at a lower level, which is sometimes enough for people to get started, just to test it to see whether or not this is actually something that they think that they can use or free. So definitely cost effective. In fact, sometimes the only thing to consider is people's time in actually doing these activities. The good thing about digital marketing is that it can be very quick to use, and you can be very reactive. So if there's something topical coming that happens that's in the press, it could be that you can respond quite quickly. I think Harts have proven this very well, because especially over the last 2 years, where we've had so many updates on the government's response to the pandemic and the support that we're giving to businesses. Quite often the messages that were coming out were daily, and what that means is that with digital marketing, these messages can be then pushed out to your audiences very, very quickly. If you think back to more traditional methods with creating a letter or a leaflet or a brochure, you know, you could imagine that how, you know, the information would have been out of date before it had actually been printed and sent out. You can target your messages to different markets and audiences. So you can send a message out that is very, very specific. And I think that's important, especially for those businesses that work across different industries or are perhaps working in different geographic areas. You don't want to be telling everybody everything. So it might be that you just want to focus on a particular market to talk about a particular service. The good thing about doing that targeting is that you're not switching people off, so they're not then thinking, oh, all I ever get from this business is information that I'm not interested in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unfollow them from social media, or I'm going to unsubscribe from their newsletter because it's just not relevant to me anymore. So by keeping it very targeted, then you've got less chance of that happening. Digital marketing, all the tools have got some form of performance analytics that you can have a look at. And, you know, quite often they are so much information, it's actually hard to know what to pick out. So often what I do is there's just some key measures that I pluck out to pass on to the clients that I work with, and it's ones that I know that they're particularly interested in, but it's also ones that I know fit with their objectives. So it's just giving them that high level view. It's almost that you know, if we're looking at the dashboard on our car, it's just pulling out that key information that I know that they will need in order for them to continue driving their business. So here's a few do nots, and I'll keep saying this, and I won't apologise for it because I think it's so important, but please don't lose focus of your objectives, and you must measure results. It's so hard to see whether or not your marketing is actually doing what you want it to do if you're not actually measuring anything. You know, anecdotal information is good, and that's always you know, very interesting. Particularly as a marketeer, that's what I want to hear, but actually you need to look at the results as well. Don't feel that you have to do everything at once, and this is really, I come across this quite a lot, especially with perhaps smaller businesses that are starting off where they are time poor and cash poor, and they may be thinking, oh, we need to do, you know, we're going to send out a newsletter every month, or you know, we're going to make sure that we're on every single social media channel, and then realizing that they just don't have the time or the capacity to update all of that. It would be better if you only commit to saying, I'll do a newsletter twice a year, rather than committing to doing something monthly and then finding that you run out of steam after 3 months and it just drops off. That can actually give quite a poor impression. So, you know, just be realistic with what you think that you can achieve. I've mentioned this already, you know, setting up social media channels and not using them, or even overusing them. You don't have to be on every single social media channel. What you can do is pick out the one that you think is most relevant. So for business to business companies, it may be that you just choose to be on LinkedIn, and then just do LinkedIn very well. And then once you've done that, you then may want to move on to another social media channel as well to complement that. But don't feel that you have to be on absolutely everything, because they won't all be right for you, and it also just adds to the workload. Again, I've mentioned this before about not keeping your website up to date. Your website is your shop window, and if you're not keeping information on there current, then not only will visitors to your website think that you're not active anymore. If the last piece of news was 2 years ago, they may think that you're no longer in business. If actually you've changed your service or you've added new products, but you've not added that onto the website, how are people going to know that you actually do that? So do keep it up to date. From a technical point of view, it's also really important to keep it up to date, because if you don't, search engines, and particularly Google, will think that your site is inactive, and it will stop sending its bots, spiders, whatever it is that the search engines use to go to sites. They'll ring fence it as an inactive website, and they'll focus on the sites that they think are current. So do keep it up to date. It is quite easy to do, particularly if you have a website that is a content managed system, CMS. So that includes websites such as WordPress or Wix or Squarespace, any of those where you've got an admin login and you can actually add posts or information on there yourself. It's really worth doing. And if you don't have the capacity, or you don't feel that you've got the expertise or the technical expertise to do that, then there are options out there. So do bear that in mind. Do keep an eye on your social media channels just to see what interaction you are getting, the good, the bad and the ugly. So we do know with larger organisations that they will have people just dedicated to looking after those channels. That isn't necessary or needed by a lot of smaller companies, but it is important just to keep a check, because actually people are using that as a way of communicating, as I've mentioned some examples before. So just keep an eye on it and do that interaction back as well. Just that keyword is social, and so that's a good way of communicating. Using hashtags is good on many of the social media channels. You just need to make sure that you're not overusing them, or you're using ones that are relevant. They don't like it. With some social media channels like Instagram, you can actually have lots and lots of hashtags. On LinkedIn, they make some recommendations, and I think they recommend about 3-ish. So it's always good to add those in as well. Hashtags for anybody who's not familiar with that, it's a way of filtering. So you could actually do a search on that particular channel for that hashtag. So if you were looking for activities around Macclesfield, you could put hashtag Macclesfield and then just see what comes up, and it's a good way of seeing who's active in your area. Not using images. So on social media, in your e-marketing activities, it's always good to add an image on there just to give a little bit of interest as well. And we'll talk a little bit about e-marketing later on, but it is possible with on e-marketing to actually do a plain text version as well, just so that helps with our email servers on many companies that actually might try and filter out some of those messages where they're sort of image heavy. So that is something to consider. In terms of content, this can often be, well, I understand that we need to do digital marketing. I just don't know what to talk about. So here's just a few ideas and what you can use across each of the digital marketing channels. Again, you can see all of this, but I mean, essentially, things like social media, you can use for giving information about company news. It may be that you've got a new hire. It may be that you've got, as Harts do regularly, is give updates, whether that be relevant to the industry or, as we talked about before, the business support, perhaps from the government. Expert opinions, that's always really useful as well. So if there's something topical that's happening, it may be that you don't agree with what's being said, or you may want to give your opinion on something professionally. So it's a good way of getting those messages across. Melissa's talked before about some upcoming events that Harts have got. So any of these digital marketing activities are great for getting information out about the events that you've got coming up. And of course, talking about your own products and services, you should really have a mix. So you don't necessarily want every single post to be just about your company, or always giving updates about industry, or always giving your opinion on something. We don't all want to hear that every time. So just having a real mix across all the channels is really good, and you can start to then build up that actually it isn't that difficult to find content to talk about for your business. So some helping hands and top tips. I'll try and go through some of these in a little bit of detail. On social media, within Facebook and Instagram, there is a section called Business Suite, and you access this through Facebook. What this does is it's a platform that allows you to create posts for Facebook and Instagram. They're both connected. They're owned by the same. Instagram is owned by Facebook, so you can actually do those management through Facebook. It's very good. So it also gives you some analytics as well about performance. You can schedule it in advance as well. And it also allows you to do a slightly different message on Facebook than it is Instagram, so which is great, because one thing to note on Instagram is that you can't put links within a post. So what you can do is change the message so that you're not putting a link that can't be used. What you can do in Instagram, this might be something that would be of interest, is in your bio on Instagram, you can add a link there, and it could be a link to your website, or you could use something like Linktree, and that allows you then to add additional links in there as well. So you may have come across that and not realised it. It may look like a landing page with multiple links on to current articles, and you may have seen on Instagram posts that people say, see link in bio. So that's a good tip to add in. There are scheduling tools that you can use for social media to make it a little bit easier. There are products like Buffer, Hootsuite, Content Cow, and Canva. I personally use Content Cow. I had used Hootsuite for many, many years, but I've just moved recently to Content Cow, and I find that very good for what I need to use for my own business, but also for working with my clients. And it allows me to create posts and distribute those to the relevant social media channels. Canva is actually a graphic design tool as well, and again, I find this a great tool to use. It won't ever replace graphic design. I work with a fantastic graphic designer, and I would always use him when I need to do anything which I would consider a large project. But for something like social media posts, I would just jump on Canva and do something on there. There is a free version, and it gives you lots of access to templates across all the social media tools, as well as newsletters, presentations, all sorts. Have a look, it's great, and you know, it's a good tool to play around with. It also has a small scheduling tool that you can add. I think it's just Instagram, possibly others. It may have developed since I last looked at that side of it, but it allows you then just to post directly out to a social media channel. So definitely worth looking out for those. Some of the scheduling tools can be expensive. You know, I've got a professional version, so but because I use that on a daily basis for my clients. But there are lower plans available for businesses to use individually, and as I say, that there are free versions as well. It is limited functionality, but it could help you a lot. With for e-shops and e-newsletters, again, you can use Canva for social for the graphic design part of it. But for some of the HubSpot, if anybody is using that, HubSpot is a CRM system, so a customer relationship management system. So essentially like a database, and these databases are just so fabulous now as a sales tool. But HubSpot in particular, and allows you to also email out to your clients, and it to look like you know, a very professional looking e-shop. So that's a recommendation if you're already using HubSpot. You know, again, there's free versions, and then there are paid plans depending on what your requirements are. MailChimp is a great tool to use. I think that it's probably one of the industry leaders. And again, there's free versions and then paid plans depending on what your requirements are. The website, I've talked before about making sure that you keep it up to date from a content point of view. It's also just important to keep it updated from a technical aspect as well. So that wouldn't be something that maybe a marketer would do themselves, but you know, working with IT, or there are website development companies who will make sure that your website is backed up, and that any plugins, so if anybody's using WordPress, WordPress is made up of lots of plugin applications that you use for maybe a content form. contact form. So the plugins need to be updated regularly, and it is important that that is done properly, because it could knock out elements of your website if it isn't. So do make sure that that's done. And if anybody does need help on that side, I can certainly recommend people to help you and support your website on the technical point of view. Google Analytics, this is a great tool to use. You put a code into your website, into the administration section of it, and it then allows you to have a look at the performance of who's visiting your site, what pages they're looking at, what their journey is. So are they spending more time on your website? Which pages are they looking at? How long are they looking at each page? So that's a really interesting tool. I'm a bit of a Google Analytics geek, to be honest. I love looking at the stats, and really that helps me in terms of advising clients on maybe what we should be looking at doing next. For pay-per-click advertising, you can actually manage that through the business suite within Facebook, for Facebook and Instagram. So really good tool to use there. On LinkedIn, for doing advertising, there is guidance and advice. All the channels will have help guides, and it's really worth looking at that as well, because there is some useful information there. Something just to consider when you're doing pay-per-click advertising, that on Facebook and Instagram, we can really target very finely who it is that you want to focus on. So you can pick out the demographics, the gender, the geographic area, the industry quite tightly. It isn't as tight for LinkedIn. It's actually quite broad in some areas, and so that's just worth considering. That even though LinkedIn is a business-to-business tool and advertising opportunities on there are very good, you can't narrow down your target market quite as well as you can on other tools. And of course, Google, they do their own pay-per-click advertising as well. And there is a fantastic training session which you can do free of charge online called the Google Digital Garage. And I would really recommend that. It takes you through each aspect of what digital marketing is, and also gives you more access to tools that will help you, and what the benefits are, and how you can change your marketing to suit your business. And as I've talked about before, Canva, I've mentioned that so many times. I'm not on commission with any of these, by the way. It's just tools that I've used over the years, and that I would recommend to clients to use if they are then starting to do some of their own marketing themselves. I've mentioned the analytics. Keep looking at them. Within each of the social media channels, you can have a look at performance of posts, and you can then have a look at whether or not some posts perform better than others, whether that's down to the content or whether it's down to the timing of when you posted that. That's always something to have a look at. It may be that you only post during the week and not at weekends, because that's typically when your audience is around. So it just helps you refine your activity scheduling going forward. And then just keep referring back to your plans. Take a look at your business marketing, your digital marketing strategies and plans, just to check that actually you're still where you need to be. Obviously, all of those are work in progress. So if the business changes or the focus changes, as we all have had to do over the last 2 years, then of course the adjustments need to be made. But essentially, just keep going back to your objectives and making sure that your marketing is actually delivering those. And just to finish, this is a great tool on LinkedIn. You can actually get your own QR code. So that's what I've done on the right-hand side. If anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free. Just hold your mobile phone up. If you go to the camera and go over the QR code, that will take you through to LinkedIn, to my profile, and you can connect. You can all do that. It's a great tool to use. Or you can drop me an email. But that was where I was up to. But if you have any questions, then please do unmute yourself, and I'll take us off share, and we can have a chat.
Thank you very much for that, Helen. If you're a little bit shy of camera and don't want to unmute yourself, by all means, you can also put it in the question box as well, comment box at the side. So please feel free to pop anything in there if you have got any questions. I think that's really helpful though, Helen, in terms of just giving those extra tips and everything, you know, and where to go. But I also think that sometimes when you do look at these things as a non-marketing person, it seems really overwhelming, and probably one of the biggest tips is pick up the phone and speak to someone like Helen who does actually know what they're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always happy to have a chat to anybody about marketing. As you can tell, that I could talk all day about it, but we obviously had limited time today. But if anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah. I don't know if we're off recording or not, but if we are, we can obviously put an end to the recording. And then if there is anyone who